behind his back. Back of the So, I'm in front of you, right? You see everything that's happening, you can intercept it. I'm in front of you. So I've just stripped you. I've stripped you here. If I get lazy and start trying to do this, you just try to throw that. So I zone out here, boom. Behind your back, I bury him close. I change hands. You can't do anything about it, right? So change hands behind your back where they can't do anything about it. If I change hands in front of you, you're going to do something.
Yeah.
Right? That's right. You're going to try. My name is Anthony Kleeman, and I'm a senior grandmaster in Cacoy, Doce Eskrima. Since about 1984, I've been involved in training in Cacoy, Doce Eskrima. It's just been such a huge part of my life over the last 35 years. Eskrima is a living martial arts system. A lot of the systems that we find, they've either become sports or they've become for exhibitions, demonstrations, even movies. You know, what I learned in the Philippines and having trained for all these years is that these arts are very much alive and very much adapting and staying current in the 21st century. So Eskrima is a combat system that comes from the Philippines. It was first recorded in 1521 when Ferdinand Magellan landed in the Philippines. He and his conquistadors came ashore near the island of Cebu, and he faced a fierce bunch of natives, and they were headed up by a particular chieftain by the name of Lapu-Lapu. A lot of the conquistadors that came were actually veterans from Mexico, and when they landed in the Philippines, they thought it was just going to be an easy victory. The native Filipinos saw these guys as invaders and attacked them, and Magellan himself was actually killed in that confrontation. The Spanish didn't actually come back to that area of the Philippines again for something like 47 years or something, so they did a pretty convincing job. My original teacher, Martin Gardner in Australia, he was the first one to really expose me to Cacoy Doce Pares, and one of the things that he showed me first up was the BBC documentary TV series called The Way of the Warrior, and there was a particular episode called Eskrima, the Filipino way. And I got to see this guy called Grandmaster Cacoy Cañete, and I got to see him and see what he was doing, and this guy really struck me as being somebody who was just the real deal, and seeing him in action and seeing what he was doing was just really intriguing to me. And it became very obvious soon thereafter when I got to meet him for real, just how vital and how alive this martial arts system was. In 2006, I went to visit the Philippines for the first time in 10 years. Supreme Grandmaster Cacoy had decided to hold an event in which he invited some really high-profile martial artists from different systems to teach a week-long series of seminars. At that time, I decided, you know what, I really wanted to record some of this for posterity, and also the next year was going to be the 75th anniversary of Doce Pares, so I decided to film sort of an homage to the original Way of the Warrior series. I met this Filipino man who was, you know, in his 60s, but quite strong and quite capable. He had quick eyes and he moved well with a lot of balance and a lot of fluidity. But I'm 6'4", I'm 25 years old, you know, this guy's in his 60s, you know, really what can he teach me? Big mistake. He was lethal, you know, he was like, not that he was you know, a bully or anything like that, but he was just so incredibly good with the skills that he had that he made me an absolute believer. The first time I had a chance to sort of either cross sticks with him or to match him with empty hands, it suddenly became really obvious that this guy was an absolute master of what he did. And it was like the Mr. Miyagi moment, right? Or the Yoda moment or whatever. I met somebody who normally you tend to think of somebody with these skill levels as being a fictional character, like they're something you see in a movie or a TV series. But hang on, there's this guy, this real guy in front of me who can do these amazing things, and he's the real deal. And suddenly I got really intrigued by the whole thing, and I really wanted to have some of what he had. You know, I wanted to learn some of what he had to offer, and that was the sort of the real start of the journey. Good evening, sir. It's good to see you again.
Good evening, Anthony.
I've got a couple of questions that I would like to ask, sir.
Okay.
Okay. One of the main questions is, what do you see as being the future for Doce Pares Eskrima?
While for the future of this Pares, there will be more propagation of the art, travel, and of course, after this travel, I will do something in which I have to create the country of masters. For example, for the world to be controlled by the country of masters, I have to create the country of masters composed of so many masters from all over the world. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I create a small council of masters here, or officers, to coordinate with the council of grand masters all over the world.
I see.
So actually there is full control of the propagation, development of these Pares all over the world.
So, you know, after Grandmaster Cacoy passed in February of 2016, there was a bit of a power vacuum left, I guess you could say. And it wasn't at all clear as to what the future necessarily held, but you know, most of us have always seen that headquarters in Cebu has always been like a critical component of the overall sort of health of the art. And fortunately, SGM Cacoy left his grandson, Chuck, one of his top students, a guy called John Mack, and another grandson called Miko Kenyete, as the inheritors of the system in essence. And all three of those guys are amazingly good at Cacoy Doce Pares. They're very, very capable.
It's an all-around system. A lot of people don't see that until they come to Cebu and learn from the different instructors here in Cebu. It's not just sticks. It's everything. It's throwing, chokeouts, trapping, knife, double stick, single stick, staff. They even have a whip. You know, so it's an all-around system where a lot of people think that Eskrima is just stick fighting because of the upsurge of the tournaments that they have in the United States, and it's not that. The style itself, when I first met Manu Cacoy, I met him back in 1980. A friend of mine, Al Concepcion, had brought him to the States with his nephews and some students, and that was in Sacramento. And I had witnessed his sparring, and his sparring was just like something I've never seen.
Most of all, it's a practical martial art. It does work, it's effective. The Eskrima is about wrist action combined with the body, but it's all condensed to make it very explosive, whereas with a lot of the other ones, it's a big swinging strike. It's a fully committed type of strike. So I think practicality is the name of the game, and I think Eskrima is the way to go.
So I think the role that Cacoy Doce Pares plays in the 21st century is something that's multifaceted, something that allows each practitioner to venture into new terrain and expand it even further. I think for what it was and for how it was done, there isn't anything else like it. But I think that we've only penetrated the very beginning stages of each of those branches that are there ready for us to explore.
You know, the lifeblood of any martial arts system, especially here in the 21st century, is kids, really. But really, to me, one of the most fortunate things is that these arts, what we've practiced in Cacoy Doce Pares, tends to be really loved by a lot of kids. They tend to love it. My own son, when he was really small, when he was 5 years old, running around in the garage hugging the dog, even then he was playing with sticks. It's really interesting because I'm seeing aspects that I fell in love with then that I've kind of almost forgotten about, and then he's mentioning the same things to me now, and it's trippy. I think, wow, this is like a time machine, this training and this practice. The kids of any generation, if you can make them fall in love with what you do, then the future is assured, And I think that's the job of any generation, is to always bring the young in and get them to fall in love with what you do, I think over the next 5 years, I want to make sure that we steer our system into prominence on the world stage. And that's also going to become from sport and exhibition demonstration, but the core of it is always going to be combat. I think the practical, tactical aspects are what's going to carry the arts through. And people sometimes look at the martial arts in general and say they're almost anachronistic practices. What place do they hold in the 21st century? But in actual fact, they're as valid today as they were 1,000 years ago.